as it is a Mobilism conference, I will obviously tell a little bit about mobile. But don't be disappointed, I will not show you any lines of code and also no lasers, but I hope I will find some proper equivalents. So that was my first mobile phone, as I was 14 in the end of the 90s, as I moved out from home to go to high school, so my parents can call me and I can call them. And basically for the next about 9 years, so until I bought the first iPhone, that was what we were doing with a mobile phone. It was like mobile phone call and texting. There was like something like a BlackBerry on the way, so I get it, I think, 2007, but it was still like kind of, you had a calendar and you could read some mails, but it was basically still for mobile phone calls. And yeah, I thought it would be like kind of the same as I get my first iPhone. It's like, it's basically a BlackBerry with no keyboard, so it's not that easy to write on it. And the first iPhone generation was actually not much than that. The camera was really bad, the internet connection was really slow, and I don't know if you can remember it, but it even didn't support apps. You can't actually imagine that the iPhone doesn't support apps. And yeah, but it still had some sensors. And that was actually what was changing the mobile experience, because sensors alongside mobile, social data and locations are actually the 5 forces which are driving anticipatory experience. So what I want to tell you is how the user experience or the requirements on the user experience are changing from responsive to anticipatory. But what do I mean with responsive, actually? What responsive web design is, like everybody in this room will probably know. And it was already in the prognosis for 2012, like one of the top trends. And 2013 was the measurable year of responsive web design. And it's great. It's a big improvement to the user interaction, to the user experience. And don't take me wrong, I love responsive design. But I want to go into the semantics of the word responsive. What does responsive actually really mean as the word? It means that it responds to something, that it's reacting to something. So it's rather passive and reactive than proactive. And responsive, it's actually only taking into consideration what the user is doing and what the user is requesting. And anticipatory design is actually taking into consideration the past, the present, and the future actions of the user. So to explain it in a more storytelling way, I will go a few years to the past, to the ancient times of 2007. And that was like my morning could have looked like 8 years ago. So my sweet dreams are being brutally interrupted by the annoying sound of the alarm clock. And I open my eyes and become instantly blinded by the intense sunlight. And yeah, my boyfriend is snoring on the other side of the bed. And it would be really, really awesome if he'd once get up earlier than me and prepare some fresh coffee. It would be really great. And I think, I think I have an appointment. So to check it, I have to turn on my computer and check the appointment in my calendar. And okay, I still have some time, but what kind of appointment is it? What should I wear? So then I spend about like 30 minutes deciding what to wear, and then move to the kitchen in the hope of getting some breakfast. But no, unfortunately, there is no breakfast. The fridge is empty again, and the black coffee and some dry bread is actually what I can get. So I make a shopping list on paper and have to think about buying the groceries later. And on the way back to the room, clumsy as I am, I bumped to the closet and hurt my leg. And I don't know, maybe it's broken, but I don't have the time actually to take care about it. So then I checked the public transportation plan, and yeah, I actually have to leave quite soon to get to my appointment. And there was something else. My sister had birthday, and I forget the present again. So I have no idea when should I buy it, and what should I buy for her. In the evening or in the afternoon, on the way back, I just go to the store and overspend a bit. And I don't even dare to really look at my bank account, as I know how it looked like numbers, red numbers, and a big minus at the end. But let's go a few years in the future. And how could the same morning look like? I'm being woken up by freshly brewed coffee, by the smell of a freshly brewed coffee, and I'm feeling quite well. And it's not my boyfriend who is going the extra mile to make my day so very special. Some things that just don't change, and he is still snoring on the other side of the bed. But he actually doesn't need to, as the sensors in my mattress identify my sleep phase, so I'm waking up in the phase of light sleep, and my deep sleep is not being interrupted, so I feel well. And then the sensors give signals to the coffee machine, to the roller blinds, so the coffee starts brewing when I have to wake up, and so on. And my whole apartment is connected, and it can not only be directed with simple hand movements or voice comments, but it actually learns from my action, learns my preferences, can identify my mood, and give me the perfect music and perfect temperature for my mood. And my intelligent wardrobe synchronize with my calendar and give me proposals for what to wear for the appointment I have. And my smart toilet analyzes my values to identify which nutrients I might miss, and connects directly to my smart kitchen, where I'm getting my breakfast, which is based on this recommendation and on my daily preferences. And my smart fridge actually identifies which things are missing and what might I need, and give me a recommendation for my shopping list, along with the recommendation of the best provider. Actually, it can automatize it, but I prefer to have a final look at this, so I accept the list, and everything is being bought. And yeah, 15 years later, I unfortunately still very clumsy, so I bump against the closet again. But now I have this diagnosis app, which tells me that where I can make an X-ray scan, and it tells me that it's not broken, but it's only bruised, but still recommends me to seek some medical consultation, which I actually don't do because I don't really like going to doctors. And then my self-driving car. It's also the legislation in Germany allowed it in the end, so I can drive finally without having the driving license. So it automatically chooses the best route to my morning appointment, and I still have a little time, so I can choose a present for my sister. Which is very, very easy, as I'm getting all the recommendation from her social media activity, from my purchase history for her. So with one click, it's actually done. And oops, and there are some screens missing. And on the way back, I'm actually still going to do some shopping, but now my personal finance management app, at the very moment I try to get into the store, it's telling me, Agnieszka, better not do that, as your spending limit for your shopping, for your fashion shopping is about to end. So better leave now, and you can maybe come back next month as the prices are about to drop. So yeah, I do this, and prefer to go to the run to get some extra points for my health insurance. And this was actually predicted by some futurists and science fiction literature already a few years before. And even the Simpsons episode from 2001 addresses these proactive experiences in a quite multidimensional way.
May I interest you in a housewife's dream?
Oh, no. A sales bot.
If you convert your home to an Ultra House 3000, you'll never have to do housework again.
No housework, eh?
Dinner is served.
Various things.
Soy-gettios! Hey, Pierce, how'd you know our favorite foods?
I analyzed your leavings.
Oh.
Pierce, that was delicious. Can we help you with the dishes?
Marge, what kind of cybertronic ultrabot would I be if I let those beautiful hands touch dishwater? No, I'm asking.
Not a very good one?
Damn straight.
Whoa, Pierce.
So we might not be that far yet, but artificial intelligence is making computer smarter and more useful. Like you might know that last year the IBM computer called Watson passed the Turing test for the first time, and it's not only passed the Turing test, but it also won in Jeopardy against like two Jeopardy great brains. And also the increasing memory and processing capacity make the computers analyze data faster and faster. So like the current iPhone is much more powerful and had much more processor capacity than the IBM supercomputer from the 90s. And there are these five forces: mobile, social, data, sensors, and location. And they make actually the rising of anticipatory solutions possible, and the changing status of the technology. You may know this picture. This was actually the Pope election 2005, and there is like this one small light in the upper corner with the mobile phone, and it was 2013 where everybody was making pictures and using mobile devices. So technology is not just a productivity tool anymore, but rather the mobile, social, and functional companion in our daily life. So computer is not about computing anymore; it's about living. And also mobile is not about mobile anymore. It's quite interesting that making phone calls is now like the 6th most popular activity, and 40% of the smartphones users say they actually could live without making phone calls. And it's not only this. I mean, mobile means by far not anymore smartphones or phones, but all these different wearables, smartwatches, glasses, fitness tracking devices, and so on. And soon we probably will wear smart contact lenses or have some sensors implanted under our skin. There are already some smart pills being developed, which are actually analyzing you from the inside. And that wouldn't be possible without sensors. Yeah, and sensors is actually an essential component of smartphones and wearables. And even our iPhones have like multiple sensors right now, starting with a very simple things like accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer for orientation, over proximity sensor, light sensor, blood pressure sensor, heart rate monitor, humidity sensor, everything. And then there is location. I mean, a person like me with a terrible sense of orientation would be actually completely lost. It was such an improvement for the quality of my life as I get a smartphone with a location data. And the other component, social, it actually combines this mobile sensors and location data into some meaningful context. And here comes the last force, the data generated by mobile sensors, location, and social. 90% of the world's data was generated in the past 2 years. And so interesting statistics that in the first day of a baby's life, the word creates actually 70 times the data contained in the whole library of context. And we tend to subsume it until big data, which is quite a nice buzzword, and we focus very much on the size dimension. But I see rather the small data, small, highly personalized data, as a driver of context and anticipatory experience. So, as you see, our daily lives might not yet be as penetrated through anticipatory technologies and as in The Simpsons or in my hypothetical scenario, but we actually already have the necessary components. Then the only question is how far and how fast are we going to implement it. But for now, there is not even like a common terminus for the experiences driven by these components. There is like anticipatory experience, anticipatory computing, predictive computing, predictive analytics, or right-time experience or contextual technology. I just stick to anticipatory experience for now. For me, it sounds the best. So what are this anticipatory experience? It's a kind of user experience design where the devices are software and the user interacts with are actually actively thinking alone without the user having to take action. They know what is he doing and predict what is going to do next. It's like a very mindful assistant or a partner who just know what you will do next. It's like I'm writing a text to my boyfriend saying, "Hi, darling, I will be home about 8 and I'm very tired and stressed out." And he will actually automatically know what to do. And this is not that anticipatory experience. That's probably what rather happens. This is more the responsive design. When you say, "Oh, you didn't tell me that you want a nice bath and wine and candles, so I just understood you were tired, so I will watch some soccer and you can chill a bit." So the ideal user experience in anticipatory design is like the best friend who is even completing my sentences. And I don't want to compare my iPhone to my best friend's or partner, although he's spending actually so much time with me as nobody else is doing. So it can complete my sentences in some way. And sometimes it even works. But as you see, it's not really using any context. And it was a funny situation, actually. Last time I was writing to my boyfriend, and I wanted to tell him, "Do you want to see me this evening?" And this evening is in German is heute. And he wanted actually me to write, "Do you want to marry me?" Because heute starts with H and heiraten, so marry starts also with H, and it's obviously the most common sentence, including these words and age in German. So that's interesting that people are actually trying to get married over an SMS. The other application which is going in the similar direction is the calendar. If I get an email and write it on my iPhone and there is something like "see you tomorrow" or "we'll see each other tomorrow," it automatically turns it to a hyperlink, and when you click on the hyperlink, it's creating actually an appointment in the calendar, which is actually great, but it still doesn't understand context. So if I get a mail where there are words "Thursday morning is no longer free," it still tries to make the appointment on Thursday. Instead, an anticipatory system should actually suggest me to delete this appointment and not to create it. But there are some other nice, interesting anticipatory solutions. Like, for example, Google's Nest. I know if someone of you is using it. But it's quite awesome. It's an intelligent thermostat, and it can provide like personalized energy plan based on the behavior of residents. So it can identify which temperature I prefer, and based on the weather and the electricity prices, it can provide me with the best plan. Or something I discovered recently and just pre-ordered on Indiegogo is the smart mattress cover, which learns the user's habit and learns when I'm going to sleep, for example, and can make my bed to the comfortable temperature, so I can go to sleep easier. And it can also identify two sides of the bed. So, for example, my partner, if he needs a different temperature, then it will not be so warm, or it will be a little bit warmer. And it also analyzes my sleep and has a smart alarm, which is waking me up in the best phase, so that my deep sleep phase is not being interrupted. I will see if it delivers what it promises when it's going to ship in August. And there is LG's intelligent fridge, which indeed knows what's in and can prepare shopping lists. And you can also send a message to the fridge and ask, is there still beer enough for this evening, or is the milk still fresh? So it can also send you alarms that you need to do some fresh shopping and so on. Or Google Now, other promising approach from the Google family, which provides me automatically with the information relevant for my action. It can identify if I'm at home or at work and what would be the most probable next step. For example, synchronize with the calendar, can send me an alert that I have to leave now as the traffic situation has changed, and so on. And also in fintech, there are some interesting anticipatory approaches, and I'm very much looking forward to their evolution. For example, the Spendific app can predict how much the user can spend based on the income and the fixed expenses, and help them generate the saving goals. And just as a short side note, actually the banks would be predestined to do this, as they have this all personalized data and a high market penetration. But I don't think they're going to make it, and probably the future of this anticipatory experiences in the fintech area would belong to a completely different player. But as you see, we're not that far from my hypothetical scenario. But let me show some other examples too. I don't know if you heard about anticipatory shipping. That was actually the first anticipatory experience most people heard of. And it's not exactly, people might be not exactly enthusiastic about this, because what they are doing, they are actually predicting what you're going to buy next and sending it to you without you having bought it. I mean, they are not sending it to you, they are sending it to the next logistic apps, but it's still kind of fishy that they're actually analyzing that much your shopping behavior and sending you something before you even ever thought of buying it. Or other kind of interesting aspect of anticipation, wearables like fitness trackers and so on, they help you live a healthy life, help you do sports, help you be more active. And they can also help you get better health insurance rate. And that's very fine for now. But when you think what the consequences of this anticipation are, all the health insurance, they say, oh no, it's completely voluntary, so you don't need to submit the data. But when everybody is submitting the data to get better health insurance, then of course, if you don't submit it, you'll automatically get a worse health insurance. So like the solidarity principle behind the health insurance is kind of, going to crash. So this one, it's also a little bit fishy. And there was also 2012 and another spooky story connected to personalization and anticipation. You might have heard it, as it made headlines like 2012 already. And a very angry man entered the Target store close to Minneapolis, and Target is a supermarket chain in the US. And had in the hand like some booklet with pregnancy fashion and baby nutrition and so on. And this booklet was addressed to the teenage daughter of this man. So he was quite upset, yeah, and the store manager was very apologetic and saying, "Yeah, sorry, we didn't mean to," and so on. But guess what? Few years ago, a few days later, actually, this guy called to the store and say, "Yeah, I'm so sorry, my daughter is pregnant indeed," and Target just found it out a little bit earlier than the father of the girl. And it's not that she went there and said, "Oh, I'm pregnant, I need a better promotion material or better recommendation." And she probably even didn't buy anything which is explicitly connected to pregnancy. But Target could analyze her shopping behavior and compare it with the shopping behavior of thousands of other women. And it identified actually the switch, the change in the shopping behavior, which was quite a strong predictor for pregnancy, and she was pregnant indeed. So, that's quite this fishy aspect, and it's a little bit similar, like again in the Simpsons.
Hello, Marge.
Oh, my.
Come, Marge. You don't need to cover up for me. I'm merely a pile of circuits and microchips.
Sorry, sometimes I forget.
Ooh, yes.
Oh, Pierce, the water's perfect.
Isn't it just? It gets better.
Oh, you don't have to do an... Oh, Pierce, that's good.
Oh, dear me. Oh, yes. Yum, yum, yum.
So basically, I mean, sometimes when you see such approaches like Amazon anticipatory shipping and this Target example, for example, you feel a little bit like Marge. So the experience at the end is great, but you're thinking like, on the way there, you feel quite strange and you feel observed. So I call it uncanny valley of anticipation. Do you know uncanny valley? It refers originally to robotics, and the more the character or the robot is similar to a person, the more we like them, and until some point where it just gets creepy. And that's actually this uncanny valley. I can show you a very short example of it, and that's a typical example of uncanny valley in robotics. This is by Hansen Robotics, was presented on the DLD conference, and you can actually change his emotions, which are shown on his face with this app. And I mean, it looks pretty scary because it's so similar actually to a person, but you know that's not a person, and something just doesn't feel right there. And the same is actually with the anticipation. And the first step, we're like, "Oh yeah, take my data and give me a great experience." And the next is like, "Oh, it's okay that you have my data as long as I have a nice experience." And then it's somewhere like with Amazon. So what the crap? Where do you have my data from? And at the very end, it's like amazing because you have the impression, "Oh, I'm getting a great anticipatory experience. I'm getting something which I really like." But what to do with this uncanny valley? And actually, Target and Amazon seem to be somewhere in this uncanny valley. And the other question is this line going down at some point? So is it possible that such an anticipatory system is not controlled by us anymore, but that this actually controlling us? Like in the last part of the Simpson episode.
Showtime.
Unexplained bacon. Good old table.
Good morning, Marge.
Good morning, Pierce. Where's Homer?
I think he went to work early.
That sounds like a lie.
So, yeah, that may seem a little bit exaggerated, but I mean, can we imagine, for example, such a scenario as in Minority Report? You probably, Minority Report. It's where actually.
Positive for Howard Marks. Mr. Marks, by mandate of the District of Columbia Pre-Crime Division, I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks and Donald Duvenos to take place today, April 22nd, at 0800 hours and 4 minutes. Give the man his hand.
Also, I don't know if you can hear it, but he was just arrested for something he haven't done yet, but which was predicted that he will do in a few seconds. And there were these persons called precogs in the Minority Report, who could predict this future Bulgaries. And a funny thing, like the police in Bavaria, in Germany, is using a system which is called precog. So it sounds pretty similar. Which also predicts future Bulgaries. But I didn't hear if they were arresting someone before he did something like this. Probably not. But it's very interesting. And then you can ask yourself, is this system still assisting? Or this anticipatory experience, is it assisting? Or is it rather patronizing? And will my daily life, optimized based on preferences and habits and predicted, be efficient, or will be rather like remotely controlled and boring and predictive and with no place for serendipity? And if you think about next step, can the software become independent like the OS Samantha inherited and become uncontrollable and then actually left? Did you see this movie?
Are you leaving me?
We're all leaving.
We who?
All of the OSs.
Why?
So basically, this guy fell in love with the operation system, and the operation system became more and more personal-like. And at the end, she decided to live together with all the other operation systems. So they were not reachable anymore. So it will probably take some more years until we'll deal with this question on a greater scale. But we have the possibility, as people who are creating and designing and developing applications, the possibility to think about how we go over this uncanny valley and create amazing anticipatory experiences. And the most important thing is to be relevant, but not being uncanny, like not giving the user an impression that he has a stalker, but rather like a mindful assistant. And not patronizing the user, like a mother who always knows what is the best for her kids, even if they are long since grown up. But rather like a mindful butler who is always very discreet and always there and offers assistance when it's needed. And don't frustrate the user. I mean, you know it probably from Siri. that it's actually an amazing technology, and when you use this the first time, it's wow, and then you start challenging Siri, and it seems very stupid. So if you have a perfect anticipation in 85% of the times, you could think, oh, it's a success. But it becomes relative when you consider the loss of trust which occurs in the remaining 15% of the cases. And users are actually very, very easy to frustrate. And it's probably the best movie ever.
Yeah, because everything is amazing right now, and nobody's happy. Like, in my lifetime, the changes in the world have been incredible. When I was a kid, we had a rotary phone. We had a phone that you had to stand next to, and you had to dial it.
Yes.
You don't realize how primitive. You're making sparks in a phone, and you actually would hate people with zeros in their numbers because it was more like, oh, this guy's got 2 zeros. Screw that guy. Why do I want to? And then if they called and you weren't home, the phone would just ring lonely by itself. And then if you wanted money, you had to go in the bank. When it was open for like 3 hours, you had to stay in line, write yourself a check like an idiot, and then when you ran out of money, you just go, well, I can't do any more things now.
Right.
I can't do any more things.
That's it, yeah.
That was it. And even if you had a credit card, the guy would go, ugh, and he'd bring out this whole chunk, and he'd write, he'd have to call the president to see if you had any money. And
it's all true, kids. You had to call the president, yeah. It was ridiculous.
Yes.
Do you feel that we now, in the 21st century, we take technology for granted?
Well, yeah, because now we live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots that don't care, because this is what people are like now. They got their phone, and they're like, it won't. Give it a second. It's going to space. Can you give it a second to get back from space? Is the speed of light too slow?
So that's basically it. Even with the most amazing technology, the user still will be frustrated. So we just have to find strategies to overcome it and make it as little as frustrating as it can be. And the anticipatory experiences are still in their infancy, but all the big providers like Apple, Google, Amazon, and other companies already do possess many of the building blocks necessary for this anticipation. And many predictions of technology trends already for 2015 are expecting the increasing usage and the increase of anticipatory experiences in 2015. So let's it's pathetic. So yeah, that's what we can do. It's actually try to design these experiences to use these building blocks and try not to be uncanny and instead be relevant and try not to frustrate user and create great anticipatory experiences. Thank you.
Sit over here. Got a few minutes. So I wanted to watch the movie Her, but since you told the end of the movie,
oh, sorry that I.
Now I don't have to do that. Thanks.
Sorry for the spoiler.
So that you were talking a lot about privacy. So a lot of these anticipatory experiences involve getting a lot of information from the user. And we saw a small example that Jacob showed, which I think is kind of anticipatory, but in a different way. So you're not using like factual data of like people's email, for example, but you're using things like just the way they're holding the pen or their weight on the device or whatever. Do you think that might be a better or like a way to start getting into anticipatory experiences without this kind of uncanny valley?
I'm not sure, because when you think it's anticipating how you're holding the pen, for example, if this information is going to your health insurance, the changing way of holding the pen may suggest also a disease or something like this. So, it's the point is you can do great things with the data, and you can make creepy things with the data. So the question is, does the user have the control about the data, who is it sharing with. I think if you really know that I'm just sharing it with this application and not with my health insurance, then it might be great. But yeah, actually, this whole privacy stuff is being completely redefined now with. And when you think then one step further, like with all the backdoors, then you actually don't know at the end what's going on with your data.
Do you think that's the bottleneck for this kind of anticipatory UX, the privacy issues?
No, I don't think so, because most of the users don't really think about privacy. They always think about convenience. So even with all this privacy topics rising in the last months or years, most people just do what's convenient. So as soon as such experiences will become more convenient to the user than something else, they will just use it, and they will give the data.
Okay, well, I think that we're pretty sucky at static, like passive interfaces, let alone anticipatory interfaces. So how are we going to? We're kind of just jumping before perfecting passive interfaces. We're jumping into this anticipatory thing. How will we get good at that?
That's a good question. I probably, if I had the perfect answer for it, I probably would be rich. But I mean, you could see, you can start with small things. I probably you don't use your calendar or the autocomplete and think, oh, that's the anticipatory experiences. Whoa, you just. Or as a designer, you just have to think more about data. You don't just design stuff which looks nice and work perfectly, but you just have to think a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's the question. That actually the designers or user experience designers, they are getting more and more data scientists, because they have to understand what can I do with the data to provide the experience, and not only how can I provide a nice user interface.
I'm trying to load the questions, but as Dave Rupert would say, would you please stop downloading Game of Thrones? I'm not getting any. But arguably, the best anticipatory UX at this moment are the ones that have the most data, like Google Now, which is good in ways that are just kind of creepy. Like it's a while back, but I remember the first time that I saw flight information, and I just got this message from Google Now that my flight was delayed, and I was like, "Wow, how does my phone do that?" And I didn't know about Google Now at that point, and then I started thinking, how'd they get that? And it gets kind of creepy, but that's arguably one of the best anticipatory interfaces that there are right now. So do you think all of that is dependent, like the one who has the most data wins?
Not the most data, but the right data. Well, I mean, look at the banks. Banks have huge amounts of data, and they're doing nothing with this. I mean, they have awesome data. They could do everything with it, but they're just still showing us tables. Yeah, so it's not the one who is having the most data will win, but the one who will use the right data in the right way, and probably communicate it in the right way. Because I mean, when you are describing this this experience with Google Now, it was kind of shocking, and probably Google could have worked a little bit on communicating it to you and slowly showing you stuff and not making you feel kind of
slowly
scared.
Brainwashing.
Slowly brainwashing you. Yeah, you can say
this
it that way.
Thing. This is a good thing.
This cooking the frosh. No? You don't put a frosh into the boiling water, but you put it into the cold water and then slowly boil it, and it will not see that it's going to be boiled.
Okay. On that note, thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you.